Hi everyone. I have read your strategic planning papers from last week and posted feedback in the assigned rubric within Blackboard. I would encourage you to take the time to go in and read the feedback that you were provided, especially the comments about APA and literature selection. In general, I think this is probably one of the more complicated assignments within this course because I'm asking you to read scholarly articles and then do a synthesis of that information and give me the similarities and the differences in a well-constructed paper. And that's an awful lot to do within a 7-day period. So I appreciate the complexity of that assignment. If this is something that you struggle with and it wasn't your best work or you were not as happy with your final product as you were, go back in and read the feedback I've given you. And if you have questions or concerns, touch base and let me know and let's talk through those. I really appreciated the insights and how important strategic planning is for nurses and how important it is for our own practice. One of your classmates, Bernice, started her paper with a really profound biblical reminder of how important the process of strategic planning is, even from a biblical standpoint. She reminded me that in Proverbs 29:18, that the Bible tells us where there is no vision, the people perish. And when we talk about vision, we're talking about seeing the plan in front of us, seeing something in the future and being able to have a strategic plan to help us arrive at that vision. I'm so grateful for Bernice of reminding me of that even God expects us to have a vision, to have something that we're looking forward to, something we're working toward. And we have to put incremental steps in everything we do so that we can arrive at the vision that we foresee or that we plan for. Your classmate, Christine, did a really good job of providing some insight into the challenges that nurses face. Christine wrote that nurses are at the front line of providing care to patients and families. As a result, are highly trusted by those they provide care to. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation found that despite the knowledge, expertise, and rapport nurses have established, nurses are not considered as important decision makers or revenue generators. And the Robert Wood Johnson work is relatively recent. So what Christine is reminding us is that even today, after moving into considered as being the most trusted profession and then being viewed as a independent, autonomous profession, that we still are not perceived to be leading decision makers within our own organization. And that spans from being a bedside nurse leader all the way up to executives, that somehow the perception that nurses can make strategic plans or think critically and make really good decisions isn't the first thing they think about with nurses. And yet we do that every day. We plan our patients' care. We coordinate their care. We think through their discharge planning. And then you take that on a bigger scope of how we operate a unit or how we manage a budget. Yet I don't know that we're recognized for that skill and that expertise. So when you think about the importance of strategic planning, my encouragement is if you are at a bedside, if you're in a bedside position, to think about what that looks like for you in planning day-to-day operations or planning day-to-day care or planning coordination of care if you're in a charge nurse role for the day. And if you're in an operational leadership position, a formal leadership position, that you're actively planning with a strategic outcome in mind that's related to your vision and mission of your organization or scorecard measures or overarching goals, but that you have a plan and that you're strategic in doing that, and that you talk about it with your peers, that you talk about it with your team so that they understand that there are steps involved. So all in all, I think this was a successful exercise. I hope it was something that you've learned in the process. From an APA standpoint, the biggest thing I want to remind you is at the graduate level, the selection of literature that you should be picking should be of scholarly quality. It should be peer-reviewed. It should be research-oriented. It doesn't always have to be a quantitative research. Sometimes good research can be a collection of case studies that could be a qualitative research plan. But very rarely are you going to use editorials are commentaries written by single authors about their own personal experience or their own opinions about how something should be done or what their experiences are. If you have a collection of them, let's say you have 3 independent opinions or editorials or commentaries that all basically say the same thing, putting them together in a combined in-text citation bolsters the scholarly value of that. And I think at a graduate level, I think that would be okay. But to cite a single author's opinion, normally these commentaries or opinions are a page or two, and they're based entirely on their experience. And folks, that doesn't negate that we have experts in our industry that have great experience that really do have a lot to offer. It doesn't mean that we don't read their work. But it does mean that we look one step further, that if one author says, this has been my experience, that we look to a second and third source to validate that before we call it scholarly literature. I know at the 500 level, that this may feel a little tedious, but I assure you that when you're in the 600 level courses, the ability to locate, analyze, and synthesize scholarly literature is going to be essential. So be critical in how you view the articles. Get out of the habit of PubMeding or Google Scholaring a few keywords and pulling up whatever comes up. That kind of practice is really an undergraduate process because you haven't been given the exposure to good research techniques at a graduate level. So more is expected when you start writing at the graduate level, and being able to recognize good scholarly sources versus poor opinion sources. So take the time to practice that skill and make a good effort in finding good sources to support your ideas. For next week, you've got your annotated bibliography, which goes back to my point of reminding you of the difference in the value of a scholarly article. You're expected to find 10 to 15 articles, not including your textbooks. I would avoid websites and newspaper articles. Go into the literature and take your time and really look and see what's out there related to your topic. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you need some support, touch base. We'll put you in contact with the Liberty Online Library resources so that you can properly utilize those so that you can be fully successful. As we move into next week, I think you all are on solid footing. As you review your feedback, if you have questions or concerns or you want to talk about it, send me an email and touch base. Know that this was a tough assignment. You were asked to do some pretty complex things. If this is a one-off and it was just a rough week for you, just teacup and keep going. If you feel like you're struggling consistently, touch base. Let's talk about how we can make improvements and move you forward. I'm here. All of my traveling is done. My daughter's married. My son has graduated from boot camp. As you can see over my right shoulder, Madeline is sunbathing under the lamp. So clearly all of the drama in my house has settled down because even the dog is napping. So I have plenty of time. So know that I'm here. Touch base and let me know how I can help you and support you. I hope you guys are off to a great week. Take care.